Forbidden, Oklahoma. It was the summer of 1960 in the small town of Guthrie, Oklahoma. Helen, a young woman in her early 20s, was married to her high school sweetheart, Robert, a kind but dull man who worked as a mechanic at the local car garage. They had been married for 3 years, but Helen felt unfulfilled and unsatisfied with her life. She longed for adventure and excitement. That's when she met John, a photographer who was passing through town, taking pictures of the old architecture and landscapes for his next project. Helen and John were drawn to each other from the moment they met. They spent the whole day together, driving around town and talking about their lives, dreams, and passions. Helen felt a spark ignite inside her, something she hadn't felt in a long time. John was different from anyone she had ever met. He was adventurous, passionate, and free-spirited. He took her to places she had never been before, showed her things she had never seen before. For the first time in her life, she felt alive. One hot summer evening, John and Helen sat on the hood of his car, watching the stars and sipping on some wine. They were lost in the moment, and before they knew it, they were kissing each other passionately. Helen knew that what she was doing was wrong, that she was cheating on her husband, but she couldn't help herself. John made her feel alive, and that's all that mattered. The affair continued throughout the summer. John and Helen would meet secretly at a hotel on the outskirts of town or at an abandoned barn on the edge of the prairie. They would make love and then talk about their future, what they would do if they could be together. John would ask her to leave her husband, but Helen was torn. She loved John, but she also loved Robert, and she couldn't bring herself to hurt him. Summer came to an end, and John had to leave Guthrie to continue his journey. Helen and John said their goodbyes, promising to keep in touch, to see each other again. But as time passed, Helen realized that what she had with John was just a summer fling, that she could never leave Robert, that she loved him more than she thought. John wrote to her, asking her to come live with him. But Helen couldn't do it. She stayed with Robert, living a life of routine, but always remembering the sweet taste of a forbidden love. Years went by, and Helen and Robert grew old together. They had children and grandchildren, but Helen could never forget about John. Every now and then, she would look at the stars and remember that summer of 1960 when she felt alive, when she tasted the sweetness of a forbidden love. She never saw John again, but he always had a special place in her heart. On her deathbed, as she closed her eyes for the last time, she whispered John's name and smiled, knowing that sometimes you can live your entire life in 70 years, or you can live it all at once, in one beautiful summer. That's it. Thanks for watching and listening, everyone, and remember to enjoy the journey. See you next time. Bye-bye.